Hi, I'm going to use Cece's project, which by the way is wonderful, but it made me think about that it would be a great opportunity for me to talk to you about thinking like a computer and thinking like a programmer. And thinking like a programmer will work no matter what language that you're going to be programming in. But then you just have to figure out how to say it in that language. So I'm just gonna go through a couple of these things and give you some things to think about. If we were meeting face to face, it's the kind of thing that I would use the next class to talk to you about. Hopefully you'll watch this and it will make sense to you. So I'm gonna go through Cece's program the way it's programmed. So let's start here. She did a really cute first page here. So she's creating dot art. So click start. Now a normal human, I would think, would start at the top and work down. So we're going to start at the top and we're going to say 60, and that's going to change the size of the dot, and it pops in a black dot, 60 pixels. So then it says choose, she gives you the option to add other dots. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to add in top right, and she gives it a little cute dot up here. Now if you'll notice, that dot is not 60. That dot, if you go down to her code for that, her dot, oh, this is at the bottom, the dot for all of these, so top right, the dot size is 30, and that's fine, okay, but just keep that in mind as we go further. So then at the bottom it says type in a color to see that dot appear. So I'm going to type in red and click submit. So what that does is it puts in a color red. So let's go back up to that program, that part here. It puts in a 20 pixel red dot. Now the reason that that dot is where it is, if you think about programming in order, the last position that the turtle moved to is where this upper dot was. Okay, so now let's try this again a different way using kind of the same values. All right, so now let's start with the bottom. So in the bottom, I'm gonna start from the bottom up and see what happens. If I click this, I get a red 20 pixel dot right in the middle, because that's where if you don't put a position to begin with, it starts in the middle. So there's your dot in the middle. So now I'm going to go up here and I'm going to say top right. And now it submits a red dot. Now why is it red? Once again, this is all about thinking about the sequence. It's red because you chose the color red earlier. Okay, so it still thinks it's red no matter where. On these on event parts, each one of these big yellow on events are like little programs on their own. And you could think of them as parallel code, like in Scratch, running next to each other. So because you've already said in one place that it would be red, it's gonna be red because we set it to red. Okay, so think about that part. Now let's go up here and let's see if we can put in 60 for the size of the dot. And what it does is it changes that dot because once again that's where you were, and it changes it to red. So it stays red because red was the first thing you put in. And then the size is in the same place because that's where the turtle was. So as far as thinking about programming, if, let's say for instance, you wanted the big dot to be red in the center, you would probably put this color at the top. I mean, for Cece's purposes, she just was kind of making fun colors on there, and that's great. Let's try it one more time in a totally different way. Same information in a different way. So let's start with this one. Let's go top right and submit that one first. Then let's go to the size of the dot, and it makes it bigger. Now let's type in red, and it puts in that small dot. So once again, thinking about the order of things and how different that is going to make it. Now, once again, for Cece's purposes, this is great because you can get all kinds of different designs by doing it this way. I want to show you one other thing. It's also, it occurred to me, a really good place to, let's say for instance, you put in your dot, let's do this one more time. All right, you put your dot in and your dot was 60. And then you wanted this 60 pixel dot to turn red. And if you put in this, you get the red, but it doesn't turn the whole dot red. Let's say you wanted to be able to have that, and the reason that is because in this program, you're not getting rid of the, and you might have found this in this other, it doesn't get rid of the dot underneath, it just puts the dot on top. So if this dot were also 60, it would look like the dot changed color. You wouldn't really stop to think that, oh no, it's black underneath and then there's a red one on top. But this is a great place to maybe think about using a variable. Okay, we just learned about variables before. You guys all pretty much learned about variables, I think, in freshman year as well. But let's take a look about how we could make that happen. So if you wanted the size of the dot to be consistent once the size was chosen, you would have to create a variable. So we would start by, if I get into local versus global variables, let's just create a variable. So this variable that we're going to create is a number variable. As you get deeper and thicker into the woods of programming, you'll realize that there's a big difference between a text string, which is letters, and something that needs to calculate numbers. So in this case, we're going to want it to be a number because the radius of a circle is a number. So this is actually a number variable, okay? As opposed to down here, a string would be down here. So we're going to use this, and we're going to just declare this variable, and we're going to call it size, okay? And oh wait, actually I don't need to put it this. I used the wrong block, sorry for that. This is all I need to do. I just need to declare the variable and say that we will be using a variable and the variable's name will be size. Okay, so we want to get the size from, not the color part, even though that's at the top on the programming, because they're events, they happen simultaneously, it doesn't really matter. I'm going to the size because it's first on the screen. So here we go, this is the size piece. So she's got the option to put in any of these 30 through 60, and she did it this way, which is great. Once again, with the variable, we could probably make that easier, but we're going to just work with what she's got. So now what we've got is at the bottom of this, whatever the text input is what we want to set our variable size to. So, and this is the case where we're going to take this, I'm pretty sure this is the right one, and we don't want it in the green, in the blue, we want it outside because we want it to happen after text is submitted, and these were all the choices for that. So we're going to call this a size, so we're changing this X to size, if I can get in there. So that's our variable, and we want it to set it to the input of 2. But here's the thing, it can't be text because it won't work, because you need to use it as a calculation. So if we go to, let's see, UI control, and we're going to say, wait a second, let me take a look at this one more second. Size equals, okay, we want to say size equals, what we want to do is we want to get the number, okay? So we're going to go here, we're going to get it now, so this get number is going to change whatever this ID is to a number. So we're going to go look down here, and actually we can go right to input 2, text input 2. So this is going to, if you looked in, well, I was going to say we can show the text part, but what this does is it transfers the text and makes it a number. Otherwise we would have said get text. In this case it's get text, and it doesn't matter because here we're saying get the text, but if the text says 60, we're going to make this numeric value here for dot, so it doesn't matter. So we need to say get number for it to work. Now you can experiment and see why this doesn't work, but you can trust me on this one too. So once we now have set whatever the size is here, now we can go back up to, let's go back up to the colors, which were at the top, and I'm just going to use red because I'm not going to do this whole thing, but you could do this a different way. Once again, if you thought further about it, you probably would be able to change all these, of course this was an if-else assignment, but you could have done it without all these if-else statements if you did it this way too. Alright, so we're going to change that from 20 to size. Now we're putting in the name of the variable. So theoretically you could put in the words, you would put in the word size every time here, okay? So now let's try this again and see if this actually works or if it makes a fool out of me. All right, so we're going to go start, and we're going to choose the size, and we're going to say 60, and we're going to say submit. Now we're going to type in that color and see if the red dot changes, if that whole dot changes. Yay! And it did, and that's because we used that variable. So just something to think about. So the order of things, the sequence is really important, and just the idea of, well, if you've already set one thing and you want something else to be the same as that, then you might think about using a variable. I know this was kind of long and dragged on, but I hope that it's going to start to help you think about thinking like a computer.